we do have other things we want to talk about, including Mr. Cenk Uygur, one of our favorite characters to discuss on this show. And he recently went on, of all people, his own nephew's live stream, Hasan Piker, who at this point is, far more popular, far more relevant than Cenk and TYT maybe ever has been. Hasan has really, ascended the ladder of popularity, relevance, etc. And, obviously he had the name recognition boost from his time being on TYT. And, he definitely had a leg up, don't get me wrong. But what I do think is, somewhat commendable about Hasan's achievement is that he has done it all himself. It's really just him in his room streaming. There's not production value. There's not investment money behind it. It really just is him talking shit in his bedroom, essentially. So even though I have frequent disagreements with Hasan, I think that's one element that kind of represents the new media versus the more Young Turks model of media that Cenk helped pioneer. So, interesting for that reason. But like I said, Cenk went on Hasan's stream to discuss, well, they're here, roasting Jordan Peterson on the Dark Horse podcast, which is hilarious. But it kind of leads into a debate about Marxism and socialism versus capitalism in general. I thought this was really interesting. I would love to hear your guys' opinion and yours as well, Zach, but let's get into this and watch like the first 10 minutes or so.
By and large, there's some direct connection between the attempt to create a Marxist utopia and starvation, authoritarianism, and I think I know what this is in action.
No, totally, dude. Yeah, they do it on purpose. They love doing it.
Yeah. So I'm not I'm not a Marxist. I don't agree with Marxists. I might even fight Marxists. But let's fight. Let's fight. But this guy,
what's up with you, dude? You trying to fucking fight people? Like, just fight
You're
Joe
the one
Manchin.
who wants the gauntlet.
Yeah, for fucking Joe Manchin, like people that are actually in the seat of power, not like fucking random dickhead Marxist Leninists on the internet.
But
or Joe Rogan.
But these right wingers, when they come in with like Marxists just want to starve you, why would they want that? Why would they want that? That's so dumb.
Well, he's going to describe it to you and fucking wreck you in the marketplace of ideas. Are you ready for this?
Oh, yeah, I'm ready.
He's going to destroy you.
Question of group selection, which is because these systems are game theoretically unstable.
Just throw shit up against the wall.
They're game theoretically unstable, and that's just the theory. A game theory. Like, shut the fuck up, dude. What is this?
Shit, man. Hashtag Dark Horse, man. This guy.
And then these fucking idiots will like watch and go, that's actually great. That's brilliant. Thank you.
They don't have any idea what he's saying. Neither does he.
I just have to say that it's so awkward watching Cenk do himself on Hasan's live stream. It's like he loses every single ounce of like camera presence. He doesn't understand timing anymore. He says shit like hashtag out loud unironically. Like, it's just cringy as fuck. Like, look at him. He's like really excited to be on Hasan's fucking show today, man. Yeah. Oh gosh. Oh man, I'll fight any Marxist. I might just have to brutalize them. Like, but it's just so funny. He's just in the corner, like he doesn't have any of the like size that he is. Yeah, like this is a man that has like 20 years media experience. I don't know. I just think it's really awkward watching him interact in like a new age kind of lo-fi set. It's very awkward.
Oh, totally. Yeah, 100%.
Because they punish those who do more and reward those who do less in order to get.
It's just like, first of all, this notion that the most productive citizens in society are those who actually own the capital rather than the ones that literally do the productive labor is psychotic and completely fucking diametrically opposed to the reality, okay? Without them, shit doesn't work. I know you're a capitalist, so you of course think like replaceable labor automatically means it's not important or as important as like fucking the CEO or whatever the fuck.
No, it's 50-50. It's a nuanced, complicated thing that's not as simple as labor does all of the work. And it's certainly not as simple as these baboons talking about.
Yeah, obviously it's not that simple when you're the one that prevents your own workers from fucking unionizing at TYT. Yeah, of course you're going to have to rationalize, oh, well, it's 50-50, labor, maybe it's not as important as fucking management. Who knows? You know what I'm saying?
And I think that technically the people at TYT did get to unionize, but it was only in spite of his effort to undermine it, which is no different than what Jeff Bezos did or what what's this fuck that owns Starbucks did. They definitely tried to undermine what the fuck they were doing, and to the extent that it was criminal, I can't say that like it was in the instance of Amazon, where they were found criminally undermining the fucking union. But it wasn't like he was like, yeah, of course, like fucking unionize, like we need unions are the backbone of this country. If I'm a businessman, I want my workers to have a voice that's solid. And that was not his response, and you'll see why. Again, reminds me of a certain quote about Elizabeth Warren being a capitalist to her bones. Her and Cenk might relate on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And just in case anyone's not familiar, because TYT technically does have a union now, but like you said, Zach, that was in spite of Cenk Uygur's attempts to prevent that unionization from happening. As it says here, in a tense meeting with employees, Cenk Uygur argued that a union doesn't belong at a small news network struggling to make profits. This was in 2020. Yes, TYT does have a union now, just to be clear, but Cenk Uygur tried to prevent that. And at one point, even it was reported that he blew up on his staff members and was like yelling at them and shit.
Oh, who gives a shit about labor? We don't.
Labor, literally, there's no value without labor.
But yeah, I agree.
Okay,
but there's also no value without capital and without management.
Wait,
so,
what? Yes. 100. What do you mean? There's no.
Eventually, there has to be management. If you have labor, you have to have management.
Okay, that doesn't mean. Okay.
And you can't
having a bottom up approach and having like a labor first approach does not mean that there's no like managerial.
Yeah, they were saying
there is no management whatsoever. Okay.
Yeah, you need management. That's why I'm saying you need both.
You should. Cenk is right. You should let him teach you economic theory. Thank you, XQC4.
Okay, let's hear this shit though.
But like, as far as the value of like. What I'm talking about is in our heavily financialized economy, what value does the capital owner shareholder, like a majority shareholder, add to the product itself when you especially compare them to the value that the laborer provides? Like John Deere, right? You got the John Deere striking workers that actually fucking absolutely comstered the management recently, so shouts out to them. Like, you got those guys, okay? You got like 19-year welders and shit that are literally no longer working because they're striking, right? What the value that they create is tangible, it's obvious. What value does the shareholder who has never been inside of the fucking factory even have?
Yeah, that's easy. So you don't have to be inside the factory. Everybody's
Okay, but what value does the shareholder have?
Capital. He's providing capital for the company to do the things that they need to do. So
they can be substituted, is what you're saying.
Oh, like definitely, 100%.
Just wanted to break in here and mention that, it's pretty obvious that Cenk is like over here calculating how am I going to defend, shareholders, big investment, capital infusions and all that stuff. Very obviously, because TYT itself received massive capital infusion from none other than Jeffrey Katzenberg, $20 million of investment. So, Cenk's over here like, well, I can't argue against this thing that we did at TYT, my company that I founded. So how am I going to justify this? Ironically, however, in my opinion, TYT really went down the shitter once they took that money. In my opinion, TYT's golden age was when they were actually an independent news company. They were actually just, about giving the news, commentating on the news and shit talking. It was more fun. It was more laid back. It was more casual. It had more personality, more character to it. It was more radical. Then they took this massive infusion of money, basically cozied up to like corporate media in an attempt to go more mainstream. And what happened? At least in my opinion, the show's quality totally imploded. Again, even disregarding their political stances, which also, in my opinion, got worse, completely disregarding that, it just got boring to watch. It got really lame, frankly. All the personality dissolved, all of the character to the show kind of dissipated, and it was just very clear to me that, oh yeah, the heart and soul of the show from the very beginning was the independent edge that it had. Once they took that money, the show's quality just went down the toilet. So, I just think this is so wrong from Cenk, and clearly he can't recognize what the own downfall of his network has been, which was that cozying up to money. Ironically, the main talking point, the main mission of TYT was anti-corruption. We shouldn't support politicians that take big money. We shouldn't support candidates that are in bed with big business. Well, what do you think fucking ruined your show, man?
Yeah, just to clarify, it does look like it was in 2014, so pre-Bernie Sanders, when they did first start taking millionaire money. So they first received a $4 million investment from Buddy Roemer, who was a Republican governor from Louisiana. So so it looks like for almost a decade now, they've been steeped in these millions. But yeah, that's at least from what we know from two main contributions, that's $24 million. And, of course, Cenk Uygur is not going to fucking come out and say that, Jeffrey Katzenberg or Buddy Roemer are completely useless and has operation. He wants to get more cash from them. That's how this kind of thing works. The value of these fuckers that sit at the top is that you can suck from your teats if you get hired up in management. They start paying you off, right? They start, scratching your back. Cenk, you get to drive a Maserati now. Like, hey, congratulations. Shut the fuck up when we tell you, but you can do the rest of what you want. That's that kind of mentality. And it's just so broken. And I kind of think that Hasan fucks up dragging Cenk here because he's trying to be too nice to him because he's his uncle, laying down exactly what Cenk is saying here. He's saying that he wants the rich to be able to perpetually exploit the poor. That's what he's saying, guys. If you're saying that all you have to do in order to have your value be equal to the person that's actually doing the labor, actually producing these things, is you're saying, oh, well, me having money, me being affluent absolves me from having to do my fair share of the actual work, right? You just get to reap the benefits at the same rate that everybody else is. So how is that any different than paying to get out of war so you don't have to go into the draft? How is that any different than all these other things that people would say is obviously corrupt and vile and just not indicative of a well-structured society, right? It kind of going all the way back to medieval times when you used to pay a tithe, you could pay extra, you didn't have to, and you would be sure to go to heaven, that way you could pay the church or whatever. All these kinds of things, they're throughout history, and they're a way of distinguishing the upper class and their divine rights, if you will, from the poor, and they're deserving of their perpetual toil or whatever. And that's what's so ingrained in our mind, that even a guy who identifies as a progressive, as somebody who considers himself pro-work, or Cenk, is still so ingrained in that thought process that there's some divine right to not work if you are born moneyed. That's enough of your service. Your inheritance is enough of your contribution. And that's so fucked up and just so patently wrong that even, Hasan can't just sit there and be like, oh, well, we disagree on this. No, you're a crazy person.
That's the whole point of the stock market.
By a worker fund.
Yeah, shareholders are enormously fungible. In the stock market, they're the most fungible part there is. There's no special thing about a shareholder. They're just a fungible thing but you need it, right? So obviously you need all of the above. And then the question isn't whether you need any of those. The question is, how do you weigh them, right?
So how do they get the capital?
Uh-huh.
The shareholder, how do they get the capital?
Well, there's a ton. Uh-huh.
The shareholder, how do they get the capital?
The above. And then the question isn't whether you need any of those. The question is, how do you weigh them, right?
So how do they get the capital?
Uh-huh.
The shareholder, how do they get the capital?
Well, there's a tons of different ways to get capital. A lot of it was illicit back in the day, right? And so...
Wait.
Oh, you're good. What were you saying?
Oh, I was just gonna say, is he about to? A lot of it was made back in the day. Are you gonna be honest here, Jake? Are you gonna be like, oh yeah, it's slave money? How did they make it back in the day?
No, that's pretty much exactly what he's saying. But he's like, well, it's got to come from somewhere, man. I mean, how else are you going to start a business, bro? Meanwhile, over here, like I said, Hasan is sitting here without this investment money, without this big, corporate bullshit production in the background, just doing shit in his bedroom. And yes, I know he's very wealthy, but the point is that it's like, no, you really don't need shareholder money. You don't need fucking capital investment and all this shit. If people actually want to watch you, if people actually like your commentary, at least on the internet, to some extent, there is a semblance of that, meritocratic system left where, yeah, the people whose commentary, gets a lot of views and that people enjoy does tend to rise to the top. It's one of the last places where there is some semblance of that, democracy left. And obviously algorithms are ruining that. But TYT did not get better because of the stupid investment money, because of the capital. It got worse because of that.
We are going to
ways to get capital. A lot of it was illicit. Well, there's a tons of different ways to get capital. A lot of it was illicit back in the day, right? And so
we are going to always arrive at one guy's grandfather decided we're going to do enclosures, and he was first to do that. Okay, and that's it. Ultimately, there's no other fucking difference. If you go far back enough, there's going to be one guy who bopped the head of the other guy and said, enclosures, we're doing it, seems great, we should build a system and design it around this idea of private property. Okay, ultimately that's where it comes from.
Yeah. So look, on the one hand, capital was derived in the past and in the present in awful ways. Extraction of oil, which destroys the planet, puts its externalities on the rest of us, etc. Right? And you go back to the kings. How the kings get it? They murdered everybody in sight and then declared themselves the king.
So why the fuck are you a proud capitalist, man? This is Mr. Cenk, proud capitalist Uygur. Oh, I like Elizabeth Warren more than Bernie because she's a capitalist to her bones. Then why the fuck are you doing it? Why? Like, you aren't making a very good case for it.
Yeah, exactly. Why? Well, you know, it's usually money is got by just fucking ruthless, the most ruthless means necessary, but that's just the way it is, man. It has to be done. No, I mean, no, it's not. It doesn't have to be done for shit like that. Like, that's the brain worms in your fucking mind, right? Like, how? Well, it has to be done the way where nobody gets healthcare, Jang. Oh, well, it has to be done the way where corporate capitalism controls every single one of our elections. Oh, it has to be done the way where women can't get an abortion. It has to be done the way where people who love each other but aren't men and women can't get fucking married. Right? That's how it has to be, Jang. You sound like a fucking conservative.
Yeah, 100%. It's like, okay, so if you're admitting that not only back in the day was capital extracted in extremely unethical ways, but that it continues to be extracted in extremely unethical, planet-destroying, environment-devastating ways, you know, fracking, oil, etc., then why are you defending this system where, in your estimation, to create something worthwhile, you got to rely on this middleman who happened to either extract his money from an extremely immoral, unethical way, or his parents or grandparents did? Like, how is that a system that is even remotely defensible?
And then they got all the money and then they passed it down. I get it, right? But at the same time, that doesn't get rid of the need to actually have that money to start up something. And management is useful and has its own use, right? To me, I'm both super biased, but I think at the same time it's true. There is a critical part of capitalism that actually does work and is important, just founders. Okay, so I'm biased because I'm a founder, right? But founders are actually do something creative, create a company, produce. It's like being a producer. You produce a thing, right? In our case, it's shows.
Yeah, and you were doing that for perfectly fine for like a decade or more before you decided to cozy up to big corporate business, take a shit ton of money, and then watch your network go down the drain. Like, yeah, you were doing that perfectly fine before the investment, before this infusion of corporate cash, which, goes against everything you purport to stand for on your dumbass show. So again, I just don't get where he's coming from.
Yeah, and I also did want to ask, because a couple of people in the chat were saying, to what extent did he support Elizabeth Warren?
He was pretty like, I'm on Team Bernie for the most part. But when it looked like Elizabeth Warren, when she was up in the polls over Bernie at the beginning of the 2020 Democratic primary, Cenk Uygur was 100% ready to transition into being a pro Elizabeth Warren network. I very specifically watching his coverage at the time and being downright sickened by it, because there was this effort from people like Cenk Uygur, from fake leftists that aren't actually rooted in the socialist struggle, to equate Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders policy and say that, well, even if Bernie doesn't win, it's not a big deal because Elizabeth Warren is just as progressive. She's just as good. And Cenk Uygur was like the number one purporter of that rhetoric, saying that, don't worry, guys. It doesn't matter if Bernie doesn't win because Elizabeth Warren is just as good. He was definitely going down that road. And really, I even remember it created a little bit of drama at the time, because like people like Kyle Kulinski came out and said, like, we can't be equating these two people. They're not the same. And then they would go through the list of reasons why Bernie was way better. But yeah, Cenk Uygur was definitely one of the number one people promoting that line of logic that, Elizabeth Warren is basically the same as Bernie Sanders, which I always found reprehensible and just completely inaccurate.
Yeah, 100%. And I knew you would give a good retort to that, which is why I passed it off to you. But do you want to play any more of this video for us to react to?
Yeah, let's watch a little bit more, but we're probably almost done here.
But it could be cars. It could
You're
be
also
anything.
a key man, though. So that's your value doesn't come from you being a founder. Your value comes from the audience that you've cultivated through your own personal labor. Now that labor is obviously that labor is also produced by others as well. There's other workers underneath you that are helping you create that and generate that and whatnot.